At the Gainesville State School, things are not quite like they are at any other high school campus. Here, the students, ages 13 to 19, are all convicted criminals.
Theft, burglary, drugs. Quite a few have committed armed robbery or aggravated robbery. Most of the time, it's repetitive behavior. And we hope eventually they redirect themselves.
Life at this maximum security facility is anything but normal. Yet if these kids achieve in the classroom and meet the school's strict behavior standards, they can play football. The one thing that provides a brief brush with freedom.
I seen it as a way that I could release my energy. And it was a good way to get out that tension on my chest. So that's why I picked it up in the first place. But then after a while, it really motivated me.
The chance of getting to smell that popcorn, the chance of seeing a cheerleader, the chance of hearing these people in the stands yelling and screaming and the band's playing and everything else like a football game, and that's what they look forward to.
Yet for the Gainesville boys, every game is an away game. Every crowd, an away crowd. Most with little understanding or compassion. Each experience holds a constant reminder of who they are and what they've done. After suffering through a 2008 season that saw 8 consecutive losses, the Tornadoes traveled to Grapevine to finish their season against private school powerhouse Faith Christian. Faith's coach, Chris Hogan, had a game plan for that night that had nothing to do with football.
As soon as I knew Gainesville was in our district, I wonder what that's going to be like. I mean, I bet you there's a way to impact them. The outgrowth of that was what would give them the most hope. And so then we had the idea.
Hogan sent an email to the entire Faith community asking fans, students, and parents to do something completely out of the ordinary. Cheer for Gainesville and make these boys feel like they were their own.
So Coach Hogan called me, and I'm going, oh, yeah, here we go. He's going to make us a spirit line. Yeah. And he's going to make us a banner. Here we go with JV cheerleaders and a little big banner. Well, we get down there, and I said, okay, this is going to be good. And I turn around and look, and there's this big, long line, this 40-yard line. It surprised me. I couldn't imagine. This is way past amazing.
I just seen all them people right there, and I was just shocked, surprised. Then when I found out it was a spirit line, they wanted us to run through it. I mean, I don't know, it was just a good feeling to have. All them people just kind of come out there and support us.
I figured we were just gonna go around them. I figured it was for the other team. But Coach Williams, he said, run.
And I said, they're on the right end. They're here for you. Why are they here for us? I said, don't worry about it. Run through that line, crash through that banner, and have fun all night long. That's what it's all about.
After they made the spirit line, they came and sat on our side. I was thinking, I was like, what are these people doing?
For the first time, the boys from Gainesville felt like they were the home team.
It's almost like they didn't have to prove anything. There was such a celebration of them, they begin to think, yeah, we are a team like everybody else.
While the scoreboard showed Gainesville coming up short that night, losing by a score of 33-14, it hardly mattered.
Just that feeling that we had. You couldn't convince nobody on that team that we lost. I feel like God was just touching upon all of us and letting us know that there's people out there that care about you, even though they don't even know us. That was the first time they ever seen us ever in their life. What we did in our past, they didn't care about that. They just cared that we was there right then and there, and they wanted to love us like their own kids.
Their emotional maturity went up several years that night when they saw that there were more people out there that were giving of their heart. These are the things that makes them feel that they're just as important as any other kid on the face of this earth.
It motivated me and gave me a lot of hope.
They're willing to help us as long as we're willing to help ourselves. They're willing to give us a second chance as long as we're willing to take the second chance.
We could be affirmed in the fact that we really made a difference that night, and I think you can see it's down the road and made a difference.
Had we done this before, maybe 10 or 12, 15 years ago, had we done things like this, there's a good possibility that this place might not even exist.
Well, there are many walls in our culture that separate people, and there were many walls in the days of Jesus that separated people. The classic example of this is the wall that separated the Samaritans from the Jews. And in the conversation that Jesus has with the Samaritan woman, he dismantles every wall between him and this woman. The wall of gender, the wall of social class, even the wall that would be there because he was perceived as a rabbi and she was perceived as a 5-time divorcee. He just kind of took all the bricks out of the walls until the two of them were sitting there face to face, having an honest and life-changing conversation. Well, the disciples learned from his example because in the book of Acts, there go the apostles sending Philip, the evangelist, to the Samaritans. And he does the same thing. He just takes the bricks out of the wall until he can have an honest heart-to-heart conversation with him. He accepts them. He didn't let the walls stand between him and people who were different than he. And then there's the story in the same chapter of him going to an Ethiopian eunuch. The two men could not have been more different. Philip is light-skinned. The Ethiopian eunuch is dark-skinned. Philip is an itinerant evangelist. The Ethiopian eunuch is a government official. Philip is the father of 4 girls, we later learn. And the Ethiopian eunuch is, well, he's a eunuch. I mean, there were plenty of reasons for Philip to say, that guy's pretty different. I'm not going to talk to him. But he went and he engaged the men in a conversation about Christ to the point where the Ethiopian eunuch said, here's water. What hinders me from being baptized? Basically, he's saying, can I have what you have? Now, what if Philip had said, well, I don't know if you can have what I have. You know, we don't really have a place for you. You need to change the way you dress. You need to quit, you know, these particular habits that you have. But he went through all of that, and he said, no, you can have what I have. And what happens here is we are given a picture of the church. That the church is that place where race, where gender, where tattoos and dress and length of hair, where that doesn't matter. What matters most is the cross of Christ, and that the community is brought together, not because they look the same, but because they look in the same direction. They look in the direction of Christ. And that's the picture of the church. And that's what happens when we begin blasting a few walls down in the name of Christ.
I grew up with addicted parents, you know, both mom and dad addicted to alcohol and drugs. Seen them arrested in front of my face, you know. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff that I'm sure most kids probably wouldn't see in a lifetime. But at the time, I didn't think anything was out of the ordinary. I thought that's just how people lived, you know. I thought people would just get drunk and hang out with friends, you know. There was a lot of, you know, cursing and fighting, and it was just something that I was around from birth till when I was about 13 years old when my dad started, you know, to get into the Word.
The Lord's taken away the drinking. He's taken away the meth addiction. He's taken away the drugs. Anything and everything of that sin life at one point that I embraced, the Lord's completely wiped it away from me. And I've been following him in awe because Jesus came into my life and has done something for me that I couldn't do on my own.
He was pretty much the focal point of me finding Christianity and believing in God and Jesus.
At this time, I was at the church that I was attending to. I took my children to. We continued to go. I was increasing my service time and going more often. They had these homeless banquet that they were serving people in the community with. I'm thinking, well, why would I want to do that? I wouldn't want to do that. I've always disliked homeless people. I looked down upon them. Whenever they asked me for money, even as a drug addict, I always told them that I don't have any money. Why don't you just go get a job? And as time went on, it just started to become easier. I started becoming friends with the guys, which was just unheard of for who I was before. We've been doing ministry 4 days a week for an outside. We're now into our 4th year.
My dad runs a ministry, and it's called Next Step Ministries. The purpose of it is to get people off the streets and knowing the Word of God. You know, getting them a plate of food, getting them some clothes, and showing them that people care and people are there to help out, to see the smiles and the people's faces light up of the homeless men or homeless women was pretty cool, because I actually thought that I was making a difference in other people's life just through a simple deed of giving them a plate of food. And when I have personal time to talk to them, they all say the same thing, you know, It's back when they first went to those first parties in high school, drinking and doing drugs. You know, when you help out people, it feels like you're making a difference in your life and others' lives. So there's always time to be involved in it, and you always find yourself having time. Well, looking to the future, I hope to follow in my dad's footsteps and be involved in a homeless ministry. It's something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy helping out with people who are in poverty or who are needing help.
When we honestly look into people's lives to try to understand them, and then we just extend a helping hand, things begin to change. There's an example of this. In our church, we have a dear lady whose son is homeless and has been since he was 18 years old, and now he's somewhere in his mid-30s. She does not know where he is. She only knows where he is when he gets put in jail or put in prison, and then she's contacted by the authorities. But she and her husband will go long stretches not knowing where their son is, just knowing that he's homeless. When we had a conference about helping the poor in our church, she came and said she wanted to tell her story about her son, her homeless son. And I said, why do you want everybody to know that you have a homeless son? She said, because I want people to change the way they look at the homeless. And I'm hoping that if I share my story, the next time some of these people see a homeless person, they'll think, that's somebody's son. That's somebody's son. Or there's a mother somewhere thinking about them. The word for this is compassion. And compassion is a great word in the Bible. The Greek word is splanknizomai, and it sounds like the medical term splanknology, which is a study of the visceral parts or a study of the gut. And so really compassion is something that we feel down deep in our stomach. It's kind of like a kick in the gut. It's something that we feel deep, deep within. Compassion does this. Compassion says, let's look at the hurting until we hurt with them. Let's sympathize, let's empathize, let's try to understand their situation. No hurrying past, no polite glances and then looking away, but let's look in the face of the hurting until we hurt with them. And then the actions that come out of the honest heart of compassion are not judgmental actions, they're good actions. Begin with an honest look, continue with a helping hand. This is something that we can all do.
Basically, my whole life I'd had kind of the strong sense of justice where if someone was being mistreated or someone was knocked down on the playground, I want to go help them back up and then, you know, see what I could do about the person who knocked them down. And that was just something that had been kind of built into me, not really trained into me, but I felt like I was born with that extra strong sense of justice. So, you know, learning about slavery in school was really hard for me because I just got really, really angry about it, about the fact that, you know, one group of people would think it was okay to own another group of people based on the color of their skin. And that just blew my mind. And when I found out that, that there are more than 27 million people in slavery around the world today, I just kind of realized, wow, you know, there's still something for me to do. I still can actually make an impact in the world. A quote from one of my favorite movies, Amazing Grace, William Pitt in this one clip says, "We are too young to realize that certain things are impossible, so we will do them anyway." And I think that was definitely my mentality at the time, where I just decided, you know what, this is an impossibly huge problem, and I'm not, you know, so delusional that I think that I can end modern day slavery, but I know I can do something. So basically, I talked to my friends, talked to the leaders at my school, the adults, and said, you know, this is what I want to do. I want to raise money, loose change to end modern day slavery. And I started a campaign called Loose Change to Loosen Chains. It's an open source fund and awareness raising campaign for students. And basically, with the campaign, the students would take over the school or the church or whatever their community group is and speak to the group about modern day slavery and about the fact that these are kids our age and people your age who are in slavery, physically enslaved, being beaten, some little girls being forced to be prostitutes, just terrible, horrendous situations. But, you know, saying there's hope, there's something that we can do. and raising loose change, basically, because everyone has loose change. Nobody really wants it, and this is a good use for it. So, yeah, that's basically the premise. It's completely student-led, meant to empower my generation and kids, you know, younger than me, like when I started the campaign, to realize that they can do something and to have a physical, literal impact on the suffering in the world. I remember the first Loose Change, Loosen Chains campaign we did, we broke the change counting machine at our bank probably 3 or 4 times. So each time we came in the door, they're kind of like, oh no, it's that kid again. There's buckets of change, which I'm okay with. But basically, get that change made into a cashier's check and send that check to one of 5 nonprofit organizations that we support that are physically freeing people from slavery around the world. And that money goes to pay for investigators, and they go in and document the case, and then take that evidence to the local police, raid the place where the people are being held, and get them out and arrest the bad guys, take them to court. The money that is raised would also pay for the lawyers who would prosecute the perpetrator, get them put behind bars, and the money also pays for aftercare for the people who are freed from slavery so that they can rehabilitate themselves and hopefully begin living normal lives like every human has a right to. And really, my ministry has grown to be more than Loose Change, Loosen Chains, and more than me, really. It's more now about helping people find their passion. You know, it doesn't matter if it's modern day slavery or if it's you know, helping raise money to dig wells in Africa or helping people in your own community. There's hurting everywhere, and we can basically be the solution, be the healing for the hurting in the world.